There are two ways to divide polynomials. One way is by long division, and the second way is by synthetic division. Synthetic division is the easier way to divide. However, you have to have the divisor in a form that's x minus c. In other words, x has got to be to the first power. When you divide polynomials, you're going to end up getting a quotient and then a remainder. And you would put the remainder over the divisor. These are equivalent forms. The only difference is that on the right side, they multiplied d of x through on both sides. So how do you do synthetic division? When you divide this polynomial by x minus 3, what you want to do is set x minus 3 equal to 0 and then solve for x. And you would see if you solve for x, you would get x is equal to 3. 3 is what you're going to be using in the shorthand way of dividing. Now, you carry the 6 down and then you multiply. Carry it down and then you multiply. So this is a nice shortcut in terms of reminding what to do in each case. One of the keys here is if you're missing any type of term, like if this x squared term didn't exist, you have to put a placeholder in it, which would be a 0. And that would be one of the biggest mistakes that students would forget. This shows you an example of dividing longhand and dividing by synthetic division. So it's the same problem, but notice what happens. There is no x squared term, so there has to be a 0x squared in here, and there has to be a 0 as a placeholder here. And when you go through, notice that this term lines up with this x squared term here, and you're multiplying this by this, and you're getting these, and you're subtracting down. I like to put big parentheses here to remind me that I'm distributing that negative all the way through. And then you get a remainder of -5, which at the end you would see that that would be your answer. Now, synthetic division can occur because this has an exponent of 1, that leading term. Notice that -1 is what you put here. The 3 gets carried down. Again, you have 0 as a placeholder, and then -2 and 4. Multiply, add. Multiply, add, you're going to see that the remainder is -5, and so you would get the same answer as what you did up here. Now, notice what's really happening here between the two forms. This lines up nicely because you have 0 and -3, and when you add them, you end up with -3. That's what's happening right here. And then you have -2 and 3, and when you add them, you get 1. That's what's happening here. And the same thing down here. So you're doing the same thing as just a shortcut. Easier to do synthetic division. Look at the amount of work compared to long division.